So. All right, everyone. Hello. Good morning. We record these at 8:30 in the morning because Gavin's an early riser.
So are you. So, yeah. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Glasses podcast where we overuse jokes. And yeah, today we're going to be looking at the top 10 most overlooked movies. I'm taking over now.
Man, I'm gonna lose a lot of subscribers. I feel like my list. We're gonna do underrated and overrated.
I think the thing is, this is good business because now that I'm on your channel, they're going to think, okay, this guy has some interesting opinions, and then they're going to subscribe to. Okay, so if you want to find my channel, look up. Just type in maybe if you can Gavin the Geek. You'll either find Gavin Mangus, which is the singer, or you'll find me. So
and there's also this other channel that has like 5 subscribers. That's not him.
Yeah, I have 105, so that's nice. Okay, so let's just get into the top 10 most overlooked movies before this gets any more awkward. Are you gonna start?
Sure, I can start. So I'm gonna start number 10 with something that's probably a bit controversial. It's not like when we get higher up in my list, trust me, you guys will hate me. But number 10, I'm gonna give to Monsters vs. Aliens. I know a lot of people generally dislike this movie. I don't think anyone really looks at it and says, "Oh yeah, now that's the worst. That is the worst DreamWorks film." Mostly people just don't like it. I feel like that's a lot of people. A lot of people I got DMs saying like, "Don't take it too seriously. It's just a fun, lighthearted kids movie." And I really hated that movie.
The thing is like when people say, "Yeah, it's just a fun kids movie. Kids will enjoy it." I hate it when people say that because what are your opinions? I want to know when I'm watching a movie review, or I want to know your thoughts, not what kids would think. I don't care about what the kids think. I want to care about what you think. That's why I watch your videos, to see your opinion. I don't know. I just don't like when people say that just because, oh, it's just a harmless kids movie. But what do you think of it as a film, as a movie? As a movie, is it well made? I don't know. I just hate it when people just take animated films and just like think, they're just kids movies. And that's kind of what people think of Frozen too, which is terrible. And then there's films like Grave of the Fireflies, where just like there's probably some idiot out there that thinks it's a kids movie, which it's not. If you're just stupid, I don't care. But like I'm just saying, if you think it's a kids movie, I don't know what you're on. But I mean, there's just people just think all animated. There's some people that just think all animated films are kids movies, and it's just not true. So.
Yeah. I mean, this entire podcast is turning into something else, but I completely agree. I think that it's also you have to take into account like who's making the film. Like if this was Illumination making Monsters vs. Aliens, I probably wouldn't even mind. I know they make kids films. I mean, it's kind of just like I kind of know they do. But DreamWorks makes amazing films. There's no excuse that they have to make terrible films like Monsters vs. Aliens in 2009, right after Kung Fu Panda. There's no excuse.
The thing is, I don't care if it's a kids movie or not. I'm still gonna be hard on it, just like any other film. I don't treat an animated movie any differently. Like I don't treat Shawshank different than I treat Minions or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
I treat it the same way. I see my opinion, I take my thoughts, and if I don't like it, I don't like it because, let's be honest, Minions sucks. But yeah, this is becoming a completely different topic. Yeah, just continue.
Okay, so do you want to move on with your number 10? I'm eager. I want to see.
My number 10, I don't think you've seen this movie, but it's It 2017. I think it's a pretty great film. I don't think it's like, oh, this movie's massively, insanely overrated. So many people say it's brilliant. And it's not like that. I still think it's a really great film. But I've heard some people like say it's like one of the greatest horror movies of all time, one of the greatest Stephen King adaptations of all time. And I just don't see it in that aspect. A lot of people I've heard praise Pennywise, say he's a great villain. I mean, you haven't seen the movie, but he can be really silly at points. Like he can be like really, really silly. I mean, I like the movie. I think it's a great film. I'd probably give it like a maybe 89%, maybe an 88 with my new rank system that I use. But it's just not as great as everyone says it is. It's just not. Everyone overhypes it. I mean, the kids are great, yeah. And Bill Skarsgård, he's pretty fun and entertaining to watch. But he's not like I'm not like, oh, this is such a scary movie. No, it's not like that. And it's pretty flawed at certain aspects. I still like it. I still think it's a really good movie. I just think that people overhype it. So
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people have very swaying opinions of that film. I've heard people say it's the worst movie ever, but I've definitely heard a lot of people say that it's amazing. It Chapter 2 is really where you're gonna have even more of a split because my brother loves It Chapter 2 way more than the first one, and so many people hate It Chapter 2. They
I
despise it.
hate it. I actually gave it as I was actually on. I don't know if you know this guy, but like there's these people that do this 31-31 where they rank 31 horror movies. I typed my rank in the comment section and I was thinking I gave my percentages for them, so I guess like they could see my opinions. And I put a 0% for it, Chapter 2. I hate it with all my heart. It's probably my least favorite horror movie. Not because it's awfully made, but because it's a disgrace to the book. It everything stupid in the book they put in the movie, everything great in the book they take out of the movie. So I just hate it. I hate it with all my heart. So
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I think I should move on to my number 9 here. My number 9. So this is really where you're going to see some of my more controversial opinions. And what I really like about this is that these are like opinions that I haven't really expressed before. So like even on Letterboxd. So you might not know that I'm not the biggest fan of the Terminator 1. Okay, it's still good. It's still good. Please don't kill me. It's still
uh,
good. I would watch it if I would watch it again. I'd have a fun time. It's just I don't know. It's just not that great. It's well made. It tells an okay story. I just don't think it's like the best action movie ever. I mean, Terminator 2 Judgment Day is so much better in pretty much every way. And I think that it
wait,
has the
don't you like
origin
Terminator 3
symbol of a
more?
concept
Don't
that
you like
aged really
wait,
well.
okay, do you like don't you like Terminator 3 more though?
Uh, okay, let's put it this way. If someone were to ask, would you rather watch Terminator 1 or Terminator 3? I would say, yeah, I'd rather watch Terminator 3. But, okay, Gavin is like, he's like reeling in these controversial opinions. He's like, come to my channel. I'm the reasonable one. And like, okay, so I still think Terminator 1's probably a better movie. I just think the Terminator 3 villain was probably one of the best villains, um, period, ever. I've never had a villain where every time she's on in the frame, I feel such a dread. Like she is. You haven't seen the movie, right?
No, I haven't seen it. I just tried to expose you and it worked. So
Okay, but Terminator 3 had a better villain than the first and even the second. Okay, well, definitely the first one. I think she was definitely much better than the first one. The editing was frantic in that truck scene, but I don't know, it just worked for me. All right, so you
okay.
want to move on?
Well, my number 9 is Spirited Away. I don't hate this movie. I think it's a pretty great film, but people overhype it so much. It did not. I'm pretty sure it was like the best picture in 2001. I think if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't it like best pick? Wasn't it nominated for best picture
I
in
think it
2001?
actually was nominated. Yeah.
It didn't deserve it. I will say that much. I think Fellowship of the Ring probably deserved it more, but I just don't. I don't see why it's better than most Ghibli films. It's not even in my top 5 Ghibli movies, and I'll say that with because I mean it. And I think it's definitely a really great film. I don't hate it. I don't hate any of these movies on this list actually, except for one, which we'll get to that one when we get to that one.
I
But
wonder what it is.
yeah, people know my opinions on the prequels already so well. But I, the thing is with Spirited Away, it's just when you look at it, sure, yeah, it's weird, it's interesting, it's cool, but it's like when you like the world building, the rules, that's great. But when you look at their main lead, I guess she interacts with things like this, but it's like I don't know. I just don't see why she's such a great character. She's pretty good. She's a pretty good character. But when you look at ones like characters from My Neighbor Totoro, or you look at ones from Halloween Castle, Grave of the Fireflies, I don't see why people compare her. She's just not as good at all. She's not bad. She's not a bad character. And Oh, I forgot the girl's name. I think it was like Jane. I think Jane from When Marnie Was There she's my favorite Ghibli character. I don't see how anyone could like say that the one from Spirited Away is better. I can't remember her name, but I'm not good with names. But I'm still able to remember Jane's very well. So I don't know. It's just the last 24 minutes drag a lot, in my opinion. Like they drag a lot, and it just feels like they're just trying to extend it to a 2-hour runtime. I don't hate the movie. Still think it's a pretty good movie. I just think that people overhype it way too much. It did not deserve to win Best Picture 2001 if that's actually true. And I still like it. I still do think it's a pretty good film. I think it's a good Ghibli movie. But I think when you compare it to other Ghibli's other stuff, you just can't. I mean, I've started to like it a little bit less than I used to. I still really like it. I just don't think it's as great as everyone else says it is. So
Yeah, so my whole stance on Spirited Away is like the first time I saw it, I was really overhyped for it. So I think that really, really affected my enjoyment. This was before I let nostalgia cloud my judgment because a lot of times I would just deny nostalgia even existed. And that I feel like every critic knows like that is one of the hardest things to do, to let go of nostalgia and to deny that it exists. That is one of the worst things that you can do, because if you deny nostalgia, nostalgia will that'll be your opinion. If you liked it when you were a kid, that was it. Like I loved Monsters vs. Aliens, but now I see it that how bad it is. But I saw Spirited Away. I was really overhyped. I really didn't really like it that much. It was fine. It was pretty forgettable. But I need to see it again before I actually have a real opinion on it, which is why I didn't include it on this list. I need to see it
I
again.
mean, I saw it recently, and what I don't like is when people use their introduction for movies into the anime genre. I mean, not really genre medium, but normally pick that one, and I think it's not a good idea unless you're like really into weird movies and really interesting, cool, like that type of stuff. Like if you're into like interesting, different concepts, you will probably like Spirited Away. But it's like if you're not that big on those ones, I do not recommend Spirited Away as your starting for anime movies because you're just gonna think it's weird and you're just gonna hate anime in my opinion. So it's
I,
just like that's my take on it anyways.
yeah.
But
I
I,
would
I
probably
don't know.
start with one of the Renaissance films, like maybe Mulan, Beauty and the Beast. I feel like those are good starting.
I'd probably say that as well. It's like if you go in the Renaissance and you pick something like let's say um The Hunchback of Notre Dame, it's a good movie, but it's not like any of the other ones in the Renaissance. It's not as really that good. I guess that's the best way I can explain it.
Mm.
But it's just like I don't think unless you're like really into weird movies, I wouldn't recommend that as a starting. I'd probably recommend like maybe something like When Monday Was There, Your Name is a better recommendation to get into it.
Mm.
But yeah,
Okay.
what's your yeah.
Oh, sorry. So my number 8 is a movie that I think when I didn't realize this was a controversial opinion until I posted my Silver Age video, because a ton of people hated me for saying that I did not care for Alice in Wonderland. Actually, more than I did not care for it, I really, really did not like that movie. I know a ton of people, and here's the thing, right? I try to be like open-minded, even if I hate something. Like I really did not like Alice in Wonderland. I even kind of hated it. I can acknowledge like if you like these characters, if you like the journey she goes on, then I can totally understand how this would be top tier Disney, right? But see, this is kind of an instance where I can look at Pocahontas and say, how do people like Pocahontas? And I hate Alice in Wonderland probably a little bit more than I don't like Pocahontas. But I still acknowledge that if you like Alice in Wonderland's characters, you can like the movie. So it's kind of a weird movie for me to talk about.
Okay. I guess we'll just get into my number 8 then, which is The Conjuring. Overrated. It's so. I mean, I know that's kind of what the whole point of this video is, but it is so overrated. It is so incredibly overrated. Everyone overhypes this movie. I've heard some people say it's like the scariest horror movie. It's not. It's honestly just not. It's really good. It's a really good movie. I think that Ed and Lorraine Warren, the actors who play them are the standouts, and they're the best part easily. But it's like everything else is just I don't know. When like the first I don't know, when we're with the family, it just felt more like a generic horror movie. Like the family, none of the actors, they weren't very great. I mean, it's good and it's tension filled, and James Wan gives some great visuals, but it's like the actors who play this family, they're either just meh or really bad. And they're not very interesting characters, and it's like every time we're with them, I'm like, okay, they're fine. Oh, but I'd want to be with Ed and Lorraine Warren. I don't want to be. I don't care about these characters. I don't like any of them. They're not. They don't stand out. The mom and the dad, they're just bland. I mean, I guess it's mostly about Ed and Lorraine Warren, but there are some like long times where it's like we're just with them, and it's just like I don't care about these people. I'm looking at the visuals. I'm focusing on the visuals. I don't care about these characters, and that's not really a good thing. I don't hate it. I still think it's a pretty good film, but I think Ed and Lorraine Warren completely overshadow the family leads, which we spend probably at times more time with, and they're not very interesting. They're not interesting characters. I don't know. I haven't seen the sequels. I don't. Everyone always says the first one's the best, so that doesn't give me hope that the rest of them are any good. But maybe I'll just be this controversial person. I'll think it's like the worst one of the Conjuring universe or something like that. But I don't know. It's still a pretty good film. It's interesting, and I don't know. Everyone says it's really scary. I don't think it's like a scary movie really at all. I prefer Insidious. I think Insidious is way better. In fact, that used to be my favorite Blumhouse movie until I saw Oculus. Whatever, I'm getting off topic. But the point is The Conjuring, I think, is just really overrated, and I think it does not deserve the praise it gets, even though it's a pretty good film. I just don't think it's not even my favorite horror film of 2013. I can think of two other ones that are better: Curse of Chucky and Oculus. So I don't even think it's the best Blumhouse movie of that year.
What you seem to be describing to me is when I saw this is going to be a weird comparison at first. Godzilla King of Monsters. Wait, bear with me. When I saw it, I liked it. It was super dumb and awesome. It was epically stupid, but I really enjoyed it because. But the thing is, a lot of critics were saying that they wanted to see the people characters more, and like in a monster movie, like it seems like in something where you want to focus on the visuals and the characters, the characters aren't interesting. I don't want to see the characters in a Godzilla movie, nor do you want to
I
see the
mean, I
characters
wouldn't
in a
mind the
Conjuring.
family if their characters were more interesting and they had like more distinct personalities. But it's like, I mean, this is mostly for people that have seen the movie. If you've seen it, you know what I mean. But it's like you don't care about you don't care about this family. You mainly are there for Ed and Lorraine Warren. I mean, I kind of get the comparison you're making. I'm just
Yeah.
continue.
Okay. Then we're at our number 7, right? Okay. Here we go. Here we go into some more controversial opinions. I'm not the biggest fan of The Wizard of Oz. Um, I saw it once or twice. Actually, I've seen it twice. Not the whole way through. I've seen it once the full way through, twice halfway. Um, I really don't feel like it immerses me into anything. When I did that top 10, not top 10, 10 random musical ranking, which in hindsight was a little bit weird, but I put it at the bottom. A lot of people said that it was good for its time. That's not really how I like to judge movies. I think that if something has aged, that's the whole point. Like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was 1937. Is it still a very good movie? Yes, I actually think it's a very, very good movie. Sound of Music came out in like the 1960s, or even, actually, I'm not exactly sure, but that's my third favorite movie of all time, right? So it's like, you have to look at things, in my opinion, you have to look at things how they age now. And now it kind of feels like a boring, very tepid, regular walk through
And
Wonderland. The
the thing
world
is,
isn't
I've seen movies
crazy.
from the 20s that age better than The Wizard of Oz. Like, I think
Exactly.
there's movies in the 20s where I think these are better. Honestly, I think these still hold up. Like, there's silent movies I think are better than it. So it's like I don't think there's much of an excuse. So,
Yeah. Okay.
you'll see that film much higher than this, by the way. I'll be talking about that, so I'm not gonna say much. Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to move on to your number 7?
Okay. My number 7 is Casablanca. I don't know. It's a pretty good film. Maybe I'm just not right in like the right. I guess I'm not like at the right time to be watching this. But I watched it. I'm like, yeah, these characters are pretty decent. Pretty good acting. Um, the themes are fine, I guess. But it's like I don't know. Maybe just because it didn't connect with me, and maybe I gotta like be a lot older to watch it and relate to the movie. But it's like I just think it's a solid movie. I don't think it's as great as everyone says it is. It's a good movie. I don't hate it, but I don't see why people love it so much. It's solid in my opinion. It's not like there's a ton to say about it. It's just it's not there's like a ton that I hate about it, but there's not like a ton I love about at the same time. So it's just like just solid. It's a pretty good movie.
Mm.
I just don't see why people like say, "Oh, this is amazing. It's a classic." It's like I love old movies. I mean, they're not gonna see like a ton of old movies in here. I'm like, I don't hate old movies. I love them for the most part. But it's just like I don't really like it very much. So
I
I
have
think
yet
it's
to see.
good. Yeah, it's a good movie. I just don't like it as much as everyone else.
I have yet to see Casablanca. I don't know. It does look very good. I'm excited to see it. My favorite black and white film is Sunset Boulevard, and that movie has aged beautifully. Casablanca, I hear, has also aged beautifully. Has it aged beautifully? Has it
What?
aged
Wait, did you
beautifully?
say?
I'm like,
Uh, wait? Are you asking me if Casablanca aged beautifully?
yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like it's extremely dated. It's just like it didn't like. It's not like it's just like oh, it's timeless. It's kind of just in the middle in that sort of aspect. So
Okay, well, I have yet to see it, so I think I'm gonna move on to my number 6 here, which is here we go. All right, we're moving into oh my god, my top 3, man. Whoever sticks around for my top 3, which is probably no one, because I mean, who even watches these podcasts? Let's be honest.
yeah, yeah. They only watch them because of me, and they don't. And the main times you watch them is when they're on my channel, so it doesn't
Oh
matter.
god, you're so mean today. My number 6 is Toy Story. I mean, you guys knew it had to come in. I still think it's a very good movie. Don't get me wrong. It's just not at all, even top 10 Pixar.
Well, why do you have a Bug's Life over it though? I
Oh,
just don't
Bug's
get
Life is
that.
better. Oh, yes, it's better. I mean, man,
Oh
you
no,
just
it's
love
not.
calling me
It's
out today,
not.
don't you?
Oh no, no.
I think Bug's Life, well, I'm not going to get into Bug's Life, but it's safe to say Bug's Life is just really fantastic in almost every way. But
Mm.
Toy Story is just kind of, it's good. You know, like the dynamic is solid, the characters are solid. Woody's way too unlikable. I really hated him.
Mm.
And
I
honestly,
don't
I
know.
was rooting
I
if
think
you're
for a lot of
rooting for the
people it worked for
protagonist to
them.
lose at the end, that's a problem. And I get that the whole point was that he was unlikable, but they took it way too far. And I think that his arc was very messy. As I explained in my Pixar video, I explained how his arc of learning with Buzz is very messy and not very well executed. Um, but I still think it's a very good film for all the reasons that you've heard. So,
I mean, the thing is that with it, I think the reason why people like Woody is because you know that he grows over the movie, and I think people are able to just handle it well because he's an iconic character. He's been around for like what 25 years or something like that. So it's like people don't really hate the fact that he was unlikable. If let's just say this was the first Toy Story movie, and that was it, people would probably not like Woody as much. I would say
yeah.
they probably would find him unlikable. But because of the fact that we've gone with basically 25 years of a span with him, I think people have more grown a connection with him, so they're able to just. So when he is just kind of this jerk, it doesn't really bother people that much when they watch the Toy Story. So I'm guessing that's it. That's probably how I would say as well. It doesn't bother me at all. So
Yeah, I guess the sequels did make him more of a lovable teddy bear, which is why I think 2 and 3 outshine Toy Story way harder, and even 4, I think, are much better films. But
mm, yeah, and we all know what the weakest one is. Mm.
really, okay, well, that's a conversation for another day. I think 4 is much better than those 2, but
I would put Toy
4 is
Story
better
4
than
on
1.
here, but it's like there's I know a lot of people that hate it, so I didn't put it on here. But
I
my
don't see
number
how
six,
4 is even. I don't see how 4 is a bad movie and B worse than Toy Story 1. I just don't see it. But
And I've heard so many people. I've heard a couple of my friends that like really don't like it, and I know like a good amount of people that don't. So if it weren't for those people, I probably would have put it on this list. But my number six, which is interestingly enough probably about as controversial as yours, that is Star Wars: A New Hope. This is the only Star Wars movie you'll see on this list. I think it's very, very
Mm.
madly overrated in so many aspects. I still think it's a really good movie. I still like it. Still think it's good. But those special effects in the first two, they hold up pretty well. I mean, like, no, two and three, they hold up very well. But I'm sorry, in that first one, they do not hold up. They look very fake. You can tell they had a low budget. You can tell it just doesn't look good. And everyone always complains and say Rey's a Mary Sue. She's just a Mary Sue. She learns nothing. But it's like Luke is in like one training scene in Obi-Wan with Obi-Wan. Like it's like one. It's like one little thing. It doesn't do anything. And somehow he just is able to take out the Death Star. And with just with a little bit of training and just is able to do that. Yeah. Okay, I guess now he's able to take down Death Stars now. Okay, that's nice.
Well,
The
I really hold
action.
on. Wait, I just don't think that I think that Luke was already a pilot. You know, like he had already shown that he could, fly around with his land
Yeah.
speeder.
But the fact he's able to take out a Death Star by the
I
Empire,
mean, he
and
wasn't
barely
alone.
given
He had
any
an entire
training.
rebel base.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. He had a ton of rebels to help him.
Still, though, he still took out the Death Star, and everyone complains about saying that Rey was able to take out Ben with no training, but he was injured, so that's why. Well, I don't know. It just doesn't
Okay,
work for
well,
me.
that's a
I mean,
conversation for another day because I very thoroughly disagree. I don't think either of them are Gary Stews or Mary Sue, Gary Stew.
Gary Grooves, I think that's the term. I think it is. And the thing is that the action is hideous. Like it looks awful. It's awful. Besides the third act, third act's the only exception. Everything, all the rest of it, it's just terrible action. But I mean, I don't hate it. I'm not trying to bash A New Hope, saying like, oh, it's an awful movie. But it's like we're talking about the top 10 most overrated movies, so that's why I'm mostly going over the flaws. I still like it. I still think it's a very good film. I think that it gives an introduction to these really amazing characters and these great actors, and it's an icon. It started the Star Wars franchise. I just don't see why everyone says it's amazing, and I like a certain movie that I won't say because I don't think I'll gain any subscribers from this more than A New Hope. I'll just say that much. Once I put out my Star Wars ranking, you'll see if that ever happens. Yeah, so.
Well, I very thoroughly disagree with that. I think we should probably move on because I could talk about why New Hope is very, very, very good for a long time. So, my number five is a movie that I think is very well made, but I personally do not like it. It's called Gone with the Wind. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. Um, Here's the thing with Gone with the Wind. I think it meh. I didn't really enjoy it. I think it was very long. It was too long. I enjoy, 3.5, 4.5 hour movies. I like them. They're good, but it just felt like this is bloated and they were stretching it out. It is just way too much happening. And it really made me lose interest. I can think that this whole movie is beautifully made. It's a gorgeous film. For like the cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. The dialogue is amazing, but everything else is just it's too overstuffed. Even for a 4-hour film, I just found it very long.
I mean, I it could have been shorter. Yeah, it could have been. But I think that just like I think mainly they did that just so they could extend a lot of things and add a lot because there's certain aspects of the film, like there's certain points where they like show how terrible the war is, and then there's parts of it where it's a love story, which could feel inconsistent. I mean, it's flawed. It's not a perfect movie, but I still absolutely love it. I think, that, like you said, the cinematography is great. The dialogue's outstanding. The acting by everyone is phenomenal and I just love it. The ending, no one saw that coming. But it's just, I think there's just so many great aspects that the good heavily outweighs the bad for me. I never really found it boring though. Like it dragged out, could have been shorter, yeah, but I never was bored. I never found myself yawning or just like wanting this to be over. I still like the movie. I still like these characters. A lot of people I've heard complain about the fact that um the the female lead in the movie doesn't change, but that's the whole point of her character arc is she doesn't change. But I don't know. I still really love it.
Frankly, dear, I'd rather die. I think that's how the line goes. I've only seen the movie once. It's probably something like
I only saw it once
objectively
as well. There's a
terrible.
lot of movies I've only seen once. My number 5. I don't think you know about this movie, but it's Dawn of the Dead, 1978. Overrated. Very overrated movie. I don't. There's definitely a couple horror. This is probably, in my opinion, the most overrated horror movie ever made. It's really good. It's a really good movie, but it's like everyone loves it. I've heard some people say it's better than the original Night of the Living Dead. I'm sorry. How? How is that possible? It's not. I prefer the remake, not because I hate old movies. Actually, I said that. I said on Sean Chandler's podcast with one of his friends when they were doing like the horror video. And I said Dawn of the Dead 2004, my opinion is really, I mean, Dawn of the Dead 1978, my opinion is really overrated. I prefer the remake. And he interpreted it the wrong way. He thought that I just didn't like it because it was like boring and I don't like old movies, but that's not true. If you know me and you see my channel, that's not true. But I don't know. It's just, it doesn't feel confined. It's not confined. Like Day of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead, they're confined movies, but Dawn of the Dead isn't. You can clearly tell that it's so easy for them to get out of there. The zombies are so slow. They move so slowly, so it's very easy for them to just leave. They could have left earlier. They're not threatening at all. And they look really fake. The whole makeup looks very too distinct. It
Terrible
looks blue.
practical effects.
Yeah, it's off-putting. I still really think it's a really good film. I think it's the weakest out of George Romero's Day of the Dead, Dawn the Dead trilogy, I guess is the best term for it. But I don't know. It's just not confined. It's not really confined at all. I don't think you've seen it, but in Day of the Dead, they're in a military base. That's confined. They're stuck in a military base. Night of the Living Dead, they're stuck in this one house. They're confined. In Dawn of the Dead, they're stuck in a mall, but they chose to go in the mall in the first place. It wasn't their option. I prefer Dawn of the Dead 2004 because it's a more confined movie. It feels more claustrophobic, but Dawn of the Dead doesn't. So that's that's why I prefer the remake, and I think it's a very overrated movie.
Yeah, so I've never even heard of Dawn of the Dead 1978. So I just looked it up. I don't really have that much to say. I really liked the 2004 remake as well.
Oh wait, you've seen the 2004 remake?
Yes, it's Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead.
That's Edgar Wright's version of it. That's not the remake. That's a spoof off of it. The remake is Dawn of the Dead 2004, not Shaun of the Dead. So
I've seen Shaun of the Dead, not Dawn of the Dead 2004. No, I don't really like horror, which is kind of weird because you love horror, and I love musicals and you don't. So
I mean, I can't really judge musicals, just like you can't really judge horror very much because it's like I haven't seen many musicals, and it's like you haven't seen very much horror movies. And you said you've seen 2 of them, and you said you loved both of them, so I don't know why you're saying you don't like it.
I just don't like being scared. Those two, like Alien was
But it's not like that.
scary. Harpoon was psychological. I just don't really like getting scared. It's just not my thing. I don't like it.
I mean, have you seen a horror movie you don't like, though?
No, mostly because I see trailers and then I say, nope, not for me. I'm done.
I mean, that's kind of you're judging something you haven't seen much from. I mean, I try not to judge musicals because I haven't seen many of them. I've seen like maybe 4 or 5. So that's why I don't really judge them. But I mean, I don't know. It's just,
I'm not judging anything. I'm just saying it's just not my thing.
I mean, you can't really say it's not your thing at the same time, though, because you've seen 2 movies from them and you liked those 2 movies.
Okay, but I don't like getting scared. I just don't like jump scares. It's not my thing.
Have you gotten jump scared in a movie before, though? Have you gotten jump scared in a movie before?
I'm not saying horror isn't my thing. I'm just saying I don't like being scared.
Okay, fine. I guess
Come on, that's fair. Just like you can say you're allowed to say that you don't like musical numbers.
I mean, I like musical numbers. It's just like a lot of the movies I've seen from them I don't like, but it's like I haven't seen many from them. I haven't seen Singing in the Rain. I haven't seen The Sound of Music, so that's why I try not to judge it.
Anyway, this is turning into a Discord call.
Yeah, this is turning into a Discord call.
I'm gonna move on to my number 4 here. Oh God, here we go. Rip comment section. I don't think Empire Strikes Back is a good movie. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
Wow. And you
My
think I
number
knew,
four.
and you
It's
even
right
talk
here.
about
Okay,
movies that
it's
you
right
like
here.
to
I
go
promise. I love this film.
big.
Okay, but seriously, my number four is Wonder. I had to do a fake out one day. For one movie. My number four is Wonder. This has like a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like a something crazy, like a 3.8 on Letterboxd. I gave it a 2 stars on 5. I did not really care for this movie. I thought there were definitely some great aspects to it, but the problem with all of these films is like everyone is turned on to 1 billion%. Every single person in the entire school. Okay, wait. First of all, do you know what I'm talking about?
I've heard of Wonder. I know it's in this book, and this kid's ugly. That's all I know, but I've heard of it.
So basically, he's just ugly. He walks into the school. Every single person starts looking at him like, what's that guy doing here? Every single person is super rude to
Oh,
him.
are you kidding me? That's how they make us react to. That's not how normal people in the middle school would react to something.
It's so abnormal.
I
He
mean,
gets
wait,
beaten up
what is
like
it take
every
place
10
in?
frames. It's way too overhyped. And then literally that's just such a problem with me. It's just every single time someone's on screen, they have to berate him and just constantly put him down. And he's yes, that does lead to like some cute moments. I just think it's so unrealistic. Like this is the same problem I had with Wreck-It Ralph. The
Wait,
race.
what? Wait, what is this in like the elementary school? Like, what grade is this take place in?
I think this is like a middle school.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, when
I
kids have
mean,
cancer, like I'm not saying he did have cancer, but when kids have like mental problems, I don't know if this is like your school or my school. People usually like help them. Like they're usually not mean to them. They're usually like
yeah, I
comforting
mean,
and coming in.
you'll have a couple jerks in there that are like mean to them and stuff. Like, I mean, if you had a, I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but it's like if you had a couple boys in there that are mean to them, then that would be fair. But I mean, if everyone's being mean to him, that's just so unrealistic because that's just not true. I mean, there are people at my school that were autistic. I mean, I haven't gone to school in a while, but it's like normally there were helpers there. Normally people weren't like extremely cruel to them or anything. Like I mean, I don't really, I guess I don't fully know this, but like there's kids at my school that like had issues and like had like problems with stuff, and like they had people that would help them. And I think for the most part, no one was really mean to them. Like no one was mean to them at all. So
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the teachers wouldn't let that. And then my other problems with the film is just like, I just really don't care for the family dynamic. I don't care for really anything the main character is a part of. I just think it's really overhyped and really, really exaggerated. The one thing I did care for was the sister, and she actually led a very interesting life because she just had a normal life, but dealing with the brother, that was a really interesting internal conflict because you can't feel mad at him, obviously, but at the same time, like her mom would never come to anything she did, and that's just such a great conflict. It's way more interesting than I have bullies and people are not nice to me because my face is different. Like it was such a really interesting internal conflict. I wish they'd focused on it more. As is, it's a whatever movie. I don't really care for it. I don't want to see it again. I've seen it twice. It just doesn't work for me.
okay, so I think I'm at my number 4, if I'm correct.
Yes,
Number
I
4
believe
is
we're at our number
Rear
4.
Window. My number 4 is Rear Window. I don't see why everyone loves this movie so much. It's an Alfred Hitchcock film. I don't think you've seen it, but it's an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and basically this guy is just stuck in this apartment for most of the movie, and there's this person in like their street or whatever that might potentially be a murderer, and that's essentially the whole movie. It doesn't like the plot doesn't really kick in until like about half the movie is done. So it's like the first half is very interesting. It's not bad. It's not awful. It's just kind of just not very interesting to me. It's just kind of meh. I mean, once we get kicked into like what's going on, it gets really good. It becomes a really good movie. But it's like everyone always overhypes it as like a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of my friends that watch Hitchcock movies, they love it. I just don't see the appeal. It's my second least favorite Hitchcock movie. I don't hate it. and it's a good film. I just think everyone overhypes it and I just think it gets compared to Hitchcock's other stuff. I don't think it's as great. So.
Yeah, well, I don't really have much to say. You're right, I haven't seen it. I still need to see more Hitchcock films. So my number three, I honestly have nothing to say. My number three, I'm gonna put. Oh God, here we go. I'm gonna say that Wally was nothing really special. I thought it was. I know Gavin is making this huge face, like, oh my God, what is this guy doing? Why did I do this podcast with him? Oh no, oh God. Just wait till I get to my number one, buddy. So
I'm
Wally,
scared.
it's not really that great. I think it was good. I was just kind of bored. It's well made. I feel like that's something that that's a common theme through both of our lists is I think it's a well made movie. I just don't think it's like top tier Pixar. I think it's worse than Toy Story 1. I think it's good. It's cute at points. There's like points that I can pinpoint that are cute. It's just not great as an overall package. I don't think outside of the cute moments it has anything really compelling or great. I think it's just cute at moments.
I will defend that argument for sure. The romance between Evie and Wally is fantastic. I mean, it's like the greatest Pixar romance for sure. None of the other ones are very
No
interesting.
question.
It's by far the best one. The animation in space looks fantastic. The first 30 minutes have like no dialogue and it works brilliantly. And even then, like they basically have no dialogue and they have to work this chemistry through, and how they do it through like a visual contact and stuff is just great. I think that. And the thing is, a lot of people complain saying that like the half of it through it, it's not very as good. But it's like it's this Pixar's take on the dystopian genre. It's their take on what they would do with it. And it's very interesting, in my opinion. And I love it for that aspect. And I just love Wall-E. I think it's top 5 for me. I think it's better than some Pixar movies. I think some people disagree with a lot for me, but you'll see once Soul comes out. I will definitely put out a Pixar ranking, and you'll see what happens.
Well, I disagree. I think that it's cute. That's about it. I mean, when I have my Pixar list, I feel like I have a very controversial middle. Like my bottom is I feel like people just dislike Brave, the Cars movies.
Yeah, like people dislike those films, but it's like when you put Wall-E in there, that's when I have to step in and then correct you.
But like the middle, a lot of people had problems with the fact that I put Wall-E, Finding Nemo very low. I put the Toy Story movies in pretty out of order for a lot of people.
Yes.
But I overall think that was a pretty accurate list. I think that maybe Monsters Inc. probably deserves to be. It's so hard. Monsters Inc. and Coco are just so good. It's insane. I don't know if it's better or worse. It's Toy Story 2 that I think maybe is better than Monsters Inc. Those three, Coco, Toy Story, if you haven't known, I put 5th Toy Story 2, 4th Monsters Inc., and 3rd Coco. Those three are really similar in my mind. They're super, super close. They could easily be interchanged in one day. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my number 3, I think I'm pretty sure everyone in the critic community saw this coming. I haven't really said my thoughts on this movie a ton, but that's Revenge of the Sith. Overrated. Extremely. I think it's probably the only movie on here that I actually hate. The only reason I didn't put it at number 1 is because not everyone loves it, but there are a lot of people that at least really like it. Or I know some people that say it's their favorite Star Wars movie. In fact, I know 3 people that would stand by that statement, and I don't see why. I think the Duel of Fate score, amazing. Everything else, either or awful. The dialogue is terrible. It is terrible dialogue. It is horrible. It is poorly written. Anakin Skywalker turning to the dark side could have been so much more interesting, and it was just dull and rushed and just not interesting in the slightest bit. None of the other characters were interesting, and I don't know. It just doesn't work in a lot of aspects, in my opinion. It was poorly written. It was very rushed and very, very rushed. You could tell they just didn't try. They just didn't care. They're like, okay, yeah, we've Anakin turn to the dark side. Whatever, let's just rush it. Everyone's going to see it. We're going to make a lot of money from this. And I don't know. I don't think George Lucas is that great when it comes to directing Star Wars movies. I only like one of those movies, and I think that one's overrated, which we just talked about. So I don't think George Lucas is a good director. I think he's made one good movie, and I've seen four of his movies, and I think he made one good movie, and then he made three other ones that I think are awful. And I think Revenge of the Sith is a horrible film. I think the CGI, it still sucks. It's not very good. The performance by Anakin Skywalker, like every time he's just like this, and he just looks like a mad emo kid. He looks like a prototype for an emo kid or something. Like he doesn't look threatening. It just looks kind of silly, honestly. But I don't like it in that many aspects. The acting for the most part wasn't great, mostly because the dialogue wasn't really helping it, and I don't like Revenge of the Sith. I think it's an awful film.
I think for me, it's definitely not the best. I think it's probably the fourth worst. Fourth to last. Like I'd probably go 3, 2, 9, no 2, 3, 9, 1 in terms of my bottom. But like my bottom Star Wars ranking. Um, but the story is really compelling. The score is masterful. It's really good. I mean, okay, Attack of the Clones had a better score, but I just I really love Elements. I don't consider the overall package to be incredible or even great. It's a solid movie. It's good. It's good enough.
Yeah, the thing is, everyone always tells me, but the story, man, the story, that's what you should care about. But the story is executed horribly. It is so poorly done and poorly written that it's like, for me, execution is everything. If it's not executed well, I don't care. I'm not going to have an idea that's badly executed as a positive because that doesn't make any sense. Why should I have this idea that could have been cool, but they just didn't use it very well? I don't think that's really efficient. And it just doesn't really have any I don't know. It's just the story was so rushed, and you can tell they were just completely rushing and just trying to get to it instead of just trying to build off. In the first two movies, they should just sort of build off of it more. Maybe had it more of a progression. But it's like the third film. It's like the only one that has any really progression, except for that one scene, Attack of the Clones, where Anakin kills the Sand People, which is probably like my biggest positive of the movie, and though I hate it because it actually shows Anakin going to the dark side. The acting wasn't great from him. You could tell he just looks like a mad emo kid.
Not just the women, but the men and the children too.
Oh my gosh. It's quotable, but in such a bad way. It's just such a cringy movie. I just don't like Revenge of the Sith. I think it's a terrible movie. It's one of those movies, if I did like a top 10 movies that I think, for me personally, get worse and just like worse the more I think about them or the more I rewatch them, this would probably be number one. Because the more I talk, the more I think about it, the more I like it less. I've seen it twice now and kind of sad I have. First time I watched it, I thought it was really good. Second time I watched it, I thought it was decent enough. And then I just started thinking about it more. I'm like, this was bad. And then I thought about it more. I'm like, this was an awful movie, and I just don't like it.
Yeah, yeah. The prequels aren't great. So I'm gonna move on to my number two, which is another Pixar movie. I have a lot of Pixar movies here, surprisingly. So I guess my
Yeah, and you're like supposed to be like one of the biggest Pixar fans, and you think they're overrated.
I mean, no, wait, no, okay. I'm a huge Pixar fan. I love their films. I mean, my top six are all masterpieces. That's really rare for me. Um,
Mm.
but I did not care for Cars that much. It's fine. It's definitely not terrible or even bad. I hesitate to say it's good. It's definitely leaning towards good way more than it is bad. It's like a 5 on 10 probably. I think that his character arc is really great. I think that Lightning is probably just the right amount of unlikable to likable. He had a really great transition. Sally's great. Doc Hudson is great. Uh, but I just don't like how slow it plays out. I think that there's a ton of scenes that just drag. Mater is extremely annoying at some points. Like, he's not terrible in others, but man, some points he totally sucks all of the dramatic weight. I was really happy to see Sally and McQueen in the best scene in the movie see what happened to Radiator Springs, and not bring Mater because if they had, it would have butchered the best scene in the movie. Um, I, I probably would say that I have to like this movie. but a lot of people seem to be top 3 Pixar, and it's definitely not for me.
I mean, I wouldn't say top 3, but I think it's a solid movie. I have nostalgia for. I think it's a solid film. It's a solid movie. I mean, it's not a masterpiece. When people say it drags, I never understood that, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's a solid film. I didn't put it on here because I know there's a lot of people like you that don't really like it at all. But it's like I know a lot of people that have it in like their top 3 just because of blind nostalgia. So my number 2. The movie that you all have been waiting for, the movie you knew was going to be on this list, you knew it. If anyone that knows me, anyone that watches my channel, and if you've seen my MCU ranking, you know I don't like this movie that much. And that's Endgame. I think it's a decent film. It's decent. But it's another one of those movies, like I said with Revenge of the Sith, the more I think about it, the more I notice how flawed it is. It has one of the worst time travel theories I have ever seen. The way they explain it is just dumb. Dumb. Like the way they explain why they can't kill Thanos and just like saying, we can't, I can't even like really, I can't like quote it or whatever, but it's just explained so poorly. Explained so stupid and just why this was so dumb. And the plot holes with that, it's not, I guess it's not really plot holes because they explain why they can't kill Thanos and go back in time and kill him, but they explained it like a second grader. A second grader would explain this better. So it's just horrible. And Thanos, they ruined him. He is awful in this movie. He is, like you've said before, I think we've quoted this before in my MC ranking, take over the tri-state area.
Yes. He's gonna take over the tri-state area, Vin! And I updated that list. I totally should have put Endgame Thanos because with one single line, they killed Thanos. That infuriated me because if they had surgically removed that line from the script, he probably would have been a little less good, but because he doesn't have a connection. But the fact that he said, I'm going to restart this universe and make it as I see fit, that was one of the biggest character assassinations I've seen in anything pretty much ever. I mean, they literally ruined him and they turned him into a one-dimensional baddie like Malekith in one line. Like, how could you not? It's one line. It's one line.
And then they somehow ruin it. Oh my gosh. The thing is that also with the movie, everyone talks about, oh, it's an amazing conclusion. These characters are built. I mean, I love Iron Man, Captain America's, but everyone else's, they ruined, in my opinion, for the most part. Black Widow's was okay. She was fine. It was fine. I don't really have many complaints about that. But Hawkeye's was just kind of like, it was a mixed bag in a way. I don't know. I just didn't really like it. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was like, oh, they ruined Hawkeye in every way. It's like, he was never an interesting character to begin with. So, but it's like they make him a murderer in Endgame, which is a big no-no in my opinion. Everyone says like, well, with Batman and Batflick, he kills, but it's like that's a different character. It's like there's a different interpretation. But with Hawkeye, with things with Batman and Batman v Superman, we haven't really seen anything else from him. He wasn't in any other movies, so we don't really know how would he react. But with Hawkeye, in the movies that do set up, and even though we didn't get much from him, it didn't feel like something like he would do. Yeah, he loves his family, but he wouldn't kill people for it. It just ruined the character, in my opinion. Hulk, no. Why? They ruined Hulk. I get what they're trying to go for. My friend explained to me in a way where I could understand it better. But they show no character development for him, no progress of this. They just skipped it. Like that was probably like the main excuse why it's like takes like place like what 10 years later or something. And it's like, okay, yeah, he has this character development now. Let's focus on everyone. Let's focus on Captain America and Iron Man because those are the people we care about. And Thor, they ruined him. He's completely ruined. He was so awesome in Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War. He was great. And then they ruined him completely. They destroyed his character. They destroyed everything great with him. They just somehow did it so well. They somehow destroyed Thor so very well, in my opinion, and it's just awful. And just, the third act's amazing, though. And the character arcs with Iron Man and Captain America are fantastic. The opening scene, it has some great moments. I just don't think it is as great as a lot of people say it is. I didn't put it as the most overrated film because there are some people like me that don't like it very much. But it's still a decent film. It's a decent movie. I just prefer other movies, and there is another MC movie that's pretty controversial. I prefer it over it. So yeah.
So my whole stance on Endgame is like there are a bunch of character arcs that just Infinity War. All of the character arcs were gorgeous. I mean, I seriously can't think of a single flaw in any character arc at all with that movie. But in Endgame, a lot of the character I would say half the character arcs had incredible, masterful endings. But then the other ones that were given less screen time, no, they did not work.
Yeah, it felt
Hawkeye,
like before they just used him as comedic relief, and they didn't really care about making a good character for him. And it's
yeah,
like the same thing with Hulk. They didn't care about his character. They're like, okay, he is done. His character arc's completed, even though we didn't show anything. Yeah, that's just sloppy writing. That's just
yeah.
poor writing.
Now
Very poor
Hawkeye,
writing.
my problem with Hawkeye lies with not lies with his murderous tendencies. Although I do understand if that bothered you. My problem with Hawkeye is when he sacrifices himself for Black Widow, or when Black Widow sacrifices herself for Hawkeye, it's a little bit of a weird moment because unfortunately, their only motivation for sacrificing each other is it's the right thing to do. And I thought
That
that was
is
a
true,
really missed
though. I
opportunity.
mean,
I think if they had had more time to develop in Infinity War and even Civil War and other
and the thing is, it's like,
movies,
why am I
I
rooting
think
for Hawkeye now? Because like he didn't show up in Infinity War just so he could spend time with his family. Which
exactly.
I know you're trying to spend time with his family, but the world is at stake, the
Yeah.
whole world, and you're gonna take your family and just not save the world, which is what you're supposed to do. It's your job, basically.
I
So
just think that I think a lot of the tension would have been way better if Hawkeye and Black Widow had more time to interact. That's my stance.
yeah, that's true.
All right, but my number one controversial opinion, I think Gavin knows. I think everyone knows in the critic community. Everyone knew it had to come in somewhere, and I decided that Tenet 2020
Oh,
needs to come in my number one because, guys, I hate this film. It is a 3 on 10. I really hate it. I think it has the worst sound editing I've ever seen in anything. I could not hear a single thing anyone was saying. Actually, that's sound mixing, but it has the worst sound mixing. I couldn't hear anything anyone said because these actors are awful, like really bad. I absolutely despise them. The villain was pretty well acted, I gotta say, but the main character, oh my god, I've heard people say he's good. I hated him in Black Klansman. I hate him even more in this movie. Now, the reason this isn't like a 1 is because the action at the end was some of the most creative action I've seen in any blockbuster of 2020 or even 2019. It was so creatively done. But I don't know, everything else before it was just so disastrous. I can't say that this is even a fine or decent or just bad movie. I really hate it. I think it's terrible.
I mean, I completely disagree. It's actually in like my top 40 favorite films of all time now, maybe my top 50, something like that. I absolutely love Tenet. I think the action is outstanding. The opening sequence was really cool the way they did that because for me, I don't know if this was for you, they didn't show the previews or like the credits or anything. You just put the movie on, and I thought that was amazing. I think like the opening sequence as a whole is fantastic. I thought the acting by everyone was great. At least the main 3 leads, which is protagonist. I forgot the guy's name. I'm not good with actor names. It's not that I don't remember him. It's just that the actors. It's not that he was awful. It's just I don't remember the name. I forgot his girlfriend, if you will. And Kenneth Branagh. I think that's the only. He was amazing. I thought he was amazing. I think he's the second best Nolan villain. I absolutely love the action in every sequence. I think it's very fast paced. I've heard some people say it's bored. I don't get that at all. I was entertained the whole way through I think it was like 2 hours, over 2 hours, and I was very entertained by the movie. I absolutely love the concept. It's Nolan doing a James Bond film. I love Tenet so much, so I completely disagree.
Well, can't wait to hear your number one, and I cannot wait to see how wrong you are. Incredibles.
My number one is Terminator 2. Overrated as awful. It's awful. It's terrible. Obviously, I'm joking. It's The
You
Wizard of
better
Oz.
be joking. I was like, no, 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 no.
It's The Wizard of Oz. I don't see why everyone loves this movie so much. It's meh. It's an okay movie, in my opinion. I think compared to most musicals I've seen, which I haven't seen many, I think it's on the weaker end of the musicals I've seen. I don't like it very much. I don't think it's as good as everyone says it is. It's a meh, turn your brain off movie. It's nothing more than that. It has no deep themes. And there's nothing it's trying to say. I don't see why people like it so much. I saw everyone's must watch, and The Wizard of Oz was on there, and I rolled my eyes. Or it was just why? Maybe it's because I don't have a connection with it. It's kind of like with Back to the Future for me. I like Back to the Future a lot more, and I love Back to the Future. It's like a very entertaining movie. I just don't think it's like one of the greatest movies of all time. Like, when people say that, it's just why. But I don't know. I think Wizard of Oz is an okay movie. I don't think there's much special about it. It's like there's like Back to the Future. It has special things. It has a cool concept. It has really good acting. It's really fun to watch. But it's like with those Wizard of Oz, I don't care about any of these things. The songs are fine, I guess. They're okay songs. They're iconic songs, but that doesn't mean they're good songs. The makeup for the witch was fine, I guess. It's not like I have much to say about the movie because a lot of people find it so memorable, but I only think it's memorable because of the satirizing. I don't think it's a memorable movie. Honestly, if like it wasn't satirized at the time, like a lot of people talked about it, I'd probably think it's a pretty forgettable film. For being completely honest, it's just not that great. It's just an okay movie in my eyes.
Dang it! I wanted you to say something like, "Oh my God, you know what the worst movie of all time is? Ratatouille. I hate that so much." So I would disagree with you, but I can't. This is also on my list. I totally agree with you. I just think it's so overrated. All right, I think that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. This was really fun. We got to do a pairing. We got to do next week top 10 underrated movies.
We probably will do that, and I have a lot of good ones, so that'll be nice. Yeah.
I'm just gonna turn this off here. Thanks for watching, guys.